Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another episode of the Third Fleet podcast. I actually don't remember which episode number this is, but that's good. It means we're getting high up in them numbers there. I think it might be 62, not 100% sure. And today we have a very special guest. We have Jonno, the community manager for Monster Hunter. Jonno, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And Gaijin, how you doing, dude?
I am doing good. Sleep deprivated as always, but doing good.
I mean, patch 6.1 came out for Final Fantasy XIV. Me and Gaijin have been pretty much addicted to it, but today we're here to talk about
we got to knock it out before
Hunter.
Sunbreak comes, man.
Yeah, because Sunbreak's
we got
coming.
Priorities.
Sunbreak's coming, and we're gonna basically lose our entire lives to it. So listen, Jonno, you have very big shoes to fill, because the last time I invited a community manager to this show, he was telling me, listen, I can't, Capcom's like giving me a hard time, so he quit his job to come to our show.
That's some dedication, yeah.
I'm obviously talking about Socks. He did not quit his job to come on the show, but it was pretty funny. I had to make that joke.
Gosh, yeah, and you're right. It's big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
literally, yeah.
Yeah, that too.
He's a big guy.
So, Jonno, tell us about how you actually got started in Monster Hunter, because you were playing the game before. I can tell, because when you became community manager and, we talked a little bit and stuff, I was like, okay, so you're not just someone they randomly picked up off of a job board somewhere or whatever. You're actually someone who plays the game. You're someone that understands the community to a certain extent. When did you start?
So I'd say my history of Monster Hunter is around a decade. So 4U was my first game I really committed myself to. I really got stuck into, but I did dabble in 3U beforehand.
Third Fleeter.
Yeah, and the first weapon I ever picked up was the switch axe, but I didn't stick with it because I found it too slow. And I switched to sword and shield. But yeah, so I've done like Yakris, I've done the underwater stuff, but ironically I learned to play Monster Hunter, and I actually really got into the franchise because of Gaijin's videos. So it's kind of this full circle. I learned to play, I had my little 3DS. I had no idea. I was like, herbs, potions, what's all this? It's not telling me anything. I'd never played a game that didn't hold my hand like that. And it was actually through Gaijin that I actually kind of am here today, which is this weird pathetic thing. So yeah, that's my kind of when I first did my turn, and since then I've just loved Monster Hunter. Went through Generations. You got Generations Ultimate, obviously then World and Iceborne, and now Rise. And I've been a huge Capcom fan since the Sega Saturn days. And yeah, Monster Hunter has just gripped me since, because I love the challenge. I love boss fights, so every hunt is a boss fight. And yeah, I've stuck with it since then.
I have to ask. So you started with Switch Axe. You said it was a little slow for you, so you went to the Sword, which is Sword and Shield in 3U was a fantastic choice, especially with monsters like Brachydidios. But did you ever go back to Switch Axe and fall back in love with it? It's gotten much faster over the years.
I tell you what, I was really bad. As in, I found what I liked and I stuck with it. And in World, I dabbled a bit in Lance, and I tried the light bow gun, and I even had tried Gunlance for fun because I really liked the normal Shallon and how just over the top and bombastic it was. But no, Sword and Shield is always what I go back to. Even in Rise, I've been practicing with Hammer and Hunting Horn, and I'm making my first Switch Axe set, which I'm going to debut tomorrow on the weekly community stream. Yeah, I've not actually I was watching both of your Rise guides on it actually last night, comparing notes, right, this is the combo I want to use. These are the Switch skills. So yeah, I've not actually, because I want to kind of go in genuine and go, right, if I'm a player that's picking up Switch Axe, this is what it looks like, this is what my trials and tribulations are, and this is what I've learned from, creators like yourselves. So yeah, after 9 or 10 years, I'm going to pick it back up tomorrow. Or Thursday, depending on when this goes out.
I had a long history of Switch Axe myself, so it's funny to hear you started with it and then you went away, because it was the last weapon I touched, because I was so traumatized by somebody who was flinching the hell out of me as we were playing. And so I said that I will never play that weapon. And then I finally got around to it and I fell in love.
Do you know what it is that... Oh, sorry, after you.
For reference, the podcast is probably coming out tomorrow, so it'll probably go live around the time that you're going to be streaming. Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube, most likely you can catch Jonno in the official.
Yeah, if he's live, pause this damn podcast and go watch him live.
Yeah, and then you can listen to it later.
Or have this audio and just watch me in silence.
That works too. But
a nice combo.
I definitely feel like with the whole thing about you got started with Gaijin videos, I feel like probably 70 to 80% of the Monster Hunter community got started with Gaijin videos to understand how to get into Monster Hunter, dude. Yeah, maybe not World and Iceborne, because you kind of like took it easier during World and Iceborne, but like everything before World and Iceborne, I would guarantee that 70 to 80%, at least of the Western community, maybe not Japanese players, because there's tons of other guides in Japan and stuff, but 70 to 80%, and I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass, but 70 to 80%, I would wager that they got started through Monster Hunter through Gaijin videos as well. Yeah, for sure.
That's just crazy. I mean, I'm literally I'm just the guy who loves Monster Hunter. Instead of making blog posts or long guides on game facts or whatever, decided that video would be the right form, and I guess right time, right place, right format, and I was able to help out people just good, because I certainly don't do hardcore content. I try to keep everything more towards beginner-friendly stuff.
Well, that's I always find that fun. Like your tone of voice and the way you showed everything, it was very much like you broke it down, but you didn't make us feel stupid for not knowing. It's like, this is how this works. This is what this does. And when you add them all together, this is the result. And so kind of like you're kind of on this journey of discovery alongside you. You know, you're not being preached at like, oh, you have to do this. It's like, check this out. I like this. However, you might like that. And as well, back then, YouTube was very much in its infancy around gaming. I believe it's not like it is now, this juggernaut with, you know, how it's kind of evolved. And, you know, I just stumbled across you. I think I was like, you know, Monster Hunter, how to this. And, you know, and then up you came. And I what Rurikhan said, you know, I think your impact on the Western community and growing that fan base all those years ago when Monster Hunter was very much like a more niche title and didn't have this kind of global Western kind of acknowledgement and huge community behind it. Yeah, it can't be understated. Like, I wouldn't be here if I probably hadn't, because I would have been like, I don't know how to play this. Like, I'm not very good. You know, and, you know, luckily I found your video. So,
I remember.
Yeah.
Massive imposter syndrome over here, but I'm thrilled.
I remember this Twitter post at one point where I'm not sure which game this was. I think it was For You, where Gaijin had just started playing For You and he finished in like 2 days or something, like the whole thing. And he just posted up, okay, I beat the final boss of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. And I'm like, I was like opening the box that Nintendo.
Yeah, I remember that was 3 days. It took a weekend.
So I'm opening this box because Nintendo sent me like the actual cartridge, because you know I love Monster Hunter as well. So I'm like, I'm opening the box and I'm reading Gaijin's tweet about how he already finished the game, and then there's a reply there. I think it was Yuri. Yuri was like, please don't spoil it for anybody else.
I was
so
lucky
funny.
though, like, because the games at that point were releasing in Japan first. Yeah. I'm so happy where, you know, the Western community has stepped up to make it so successful that we're out of those dark ages. But it did give me a golden opportunity of having the advantage of playing the living heck out of the game before it came to the West. So I was able to share a lot of stuff, and I wasn't in the middle of my fervent journey through the game myself, because I'm finding that very hard with Rise and probably with Sunbreak as well, is that I love the game. I mean, I only make videos because I love it so much. So it's like, now that my daughter loves it as well and she's playing it, it's like, how does one create content as you're trying to consume it at the same time? It's really hard. And if it's not your job, then, you know, you kind of want to err on the side of, I'm just going to have some fun. And that's usually the best result. But I'm hoping I can step up and do some more stuff. But I think I'm going to do what I did like in Rise, where I didn't do a tutorial on every weapon. I just chose like half of them, like the ones that I felt really passionate about that I could contribute. So probably no Gunlance guides coming.
It's okay. You got me for that. But
exactly.
I'm gonna do the same thing that I did for Rise as well, which is every weapon except ranged weapons. I don't like ranged weapons. It's not my thing at all. Every weapon except ranged weapons. That's me. I'll play anything unless it's ranged.
You make me now want to make a ranged weapon guide for Sunbreak when it comes out, because people look at it and they go, I can't approach that. There's too much micromanagement. There's too much ammo. I don't get it. It's like, it's really not that complicated. Like every gun has like three things. That's it. And it's like, it's really good.
I think the thing is, I feel like when I'm making those guides personally, I feel like I need to be at least I'll put like 3 or 4 days straight into a weapon, just playing that weapon, to the point where it's like, I'm an authority at this point in time. I'm kind of an authority on this weapon. Maybe I don't have the best combos of all combos, but I know everything this weapon can do, and I have a general idea of how you can play it. Whereas with ranged weapons, I just get bored of them almost instantly. Like I play ranged weapons, for instance, Call of Roth with the light bowgun, so that I can almost AFK farm it like.
Yeah, so if you're not a diehard fan of Rampage, then it just shows that you didn't play light bowgun. So
yeah.
Going out to the range, it's like.
So Jonno, you've been playing a lot of Sword and Shield in this one. You're going to be trying out Switch Axe tomorrow or today when this goes up. But what weapon has surprised you the most during Rise?
For me, I mean, for ones that I've actively been using, the hammer, I underestimated how mobile it was. Because when I think hammer, I think greatsword level of, weight. And you hear charge attacks and you're like, okay, this is going to be slow. But how mobile the hammer is. And Water Strike, they gave a hammer a parry. I love how many weapons have counters and parries in Rise. I love it. It's my favorite thing. Like, obviously, Metsu Shurengeki on Sword and Shield, Water Strike on hammer. I love it. And I saw, like, when I played Lance in World and Iceborne, I love that kind of thing. You're in front of the monster. You're like, come on, then. You're not having to roll everywhere. And it's that real kind of, like, slugging match. And I love it. But on weapons I haven't tried, it is going to be the Switch Axe. And the reason I'm going for Switch Axe now, after so long, is I've seen the combo where you go flying up in the air and then you do like a real anime-style dive down.
Downward, yeah.
And I want some of that. That looks so cool. And yeah, basically the weapons, they've got such a refreshing kind of take on them in Rise, like how they perform. And I've actually, for the first time, trying new weapons and adding them to my kind of permanent usage arsenal. Like the hammer, I now really like, and I want to play the hammer in Sunbreak as well, rather than just kind of going, oh, I'll just try this for a hunt. This looks fun. So yeah, I'm loving the versatility.
So are we gonna? You agree? We need to rename the Sword and Shield to the Shield and Sword.
Oh yeah, it's all about the bonk with the sword
so
and shield
good
now.
right now.
Like I love it, and like
bonk.
Yeah, like obviously because using your shield doesn't impart elemental or status damage, but it doesn't lower sharpness. So there's that whole kind of like strategy behind it. It's no longer like the secondary. It's 50-50 with that weapon now, and I love that.
How do you feel about elemental damage?
So I know there's a lot of discussion about obviously the meta and the viability of elemental damage. Personally, I love elemental and I love status, and it's one reason I play Sword and Shield. Obviously, I would love to see element kind of up on the platform, kind of like if you specialize and take the time to create your armor set and your build around element, there's this big reward for it. But I also know it's a very fine line because you don't want to then negate things like raw damage and things like that. But yeah, the more love element gets for me, the happier I personally get, because I do see when I invest the Zenny and the resources and the farming into an elemental armor set, I like to see results come out. I do use elemental weapons, but yeah, I know that within the speedrunners and the hardcore community, there is a bit of, well, should I, shouldn't I?
And it also depends wildly on the weapon itself. Like, luckily, Switch Axe is actually one of the few weapons where it's been very positive in that regard, because it's one of the slower weapons that can actually use element because of like the different elemental files and whatnot. It's actually very viable playstyle. One would argue that even better than Raw in a lot of situations, because I believe that the buildup of gauge on Raw is like a complete pain. Building up the actual, like not the middle gauge, but the other one outside the amped state. Mm-hmm. Like building that on Raw is way harder, at least that's my understanding, than any of the other file types.
Dragon and Poison are the best by far. They're really fast. You'll get amped like super fast. And then you get like paralysis and stuff like that. Then you have elemental. Even elemental's not as nearly as good as the other ones. And then power is a little bit behind that, but power does get that attack boost, which is nice. So I'm expecting to see, more and more, hopefully, fingers crossed, some new skills that might, like Generations Ultimate has some really good ones that will allow you to pump up your gauges a lot. So I've got hopes that maybe they'll speed that up a little bit.
So we shall see.
With
in the same vein, like the Charge Blade as well, right? Like it's always been a question: do you want to use Stun or do you want to use Element or whatever? And it'd be cool to see them all sort of come up and be level. Because it used to be like go Stun or go home, but I do think that the Elemental has good potential there.
With bringing up the Charge Blade, I'm curious if around the office, like if there was any discussion about the whole community complaints about like friggin' people complain about the it's not SAD, it's UED in Rise, the Ultra Elemental Discharge, because with power files there was the problem where people couldn't line it up as well as they did back in World, and I think a lot of people were complaining about the verticality of the files as well. So like
I'd see that.
Yeah, you guys, I'm assuming you guys got a lot of feedback on that. Feedback on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, feedback comes in many forms, shall we say.
Different expressions of love.
Yeah, exactly. But the good thing is, and I'm sure like when Sox was on and, through your interactions with Yuri and Steffi, like we are continually kind of taking on this feedback in regards to the community team. We're there, and we're on Reddit, we're on Twitter, we're in the YouTube comments, we're on the Steam forums and things like that, and we're taking notes. And obviously we do a lot of this incognito because we're there not to interfere but to learn. And the team over in Japan are fantastic at wanting to hear what do the community think, what's the sentiment on this, what's the thoughts on that. Which has been really reassuring, because obviously I came from the indie space into AAA, and it's very much, is there a difference in that? But no, like the care and the wanting to know. It's like, hey, we put this out, what's the feedback? What do people think about it? And what was great is obviously in the March digital event, at the end, Ryozo-san revealed that obviously there are weapon balance changes and things coming in Sunbreak. And obviously, whilst we haven't revealed any details yet, for me, and as a community manager, I'm feeling really excited going forward because I know that the team have always had their finger on the pulse, and they're always wanting to know, what are people talking about, what's liked, what's not. So yeah, I'm keen. Obviously, I can't comment on specific weapons and things like that, but I'm excited to see what's coming and what awaits us balance wise.
Yeah, so just give the feedback to the Japanese team that the Gunlance is people don't play because it's too powerful. It needs to get a little bit of a nerf, just a little bit. And it would be better if we just limit it to like shelling level 3, maybe. I don't think we need to limit it.
Hey,
just make it.
So long as at least all of the final forms get shelling level 3, I'll take it. Let's just give it to all the forms.
And or maybe we can put in a request for a meme weapon just to trigger. That's not a good word to use. To upset Ruri, we'll have a gun lance that looks like a longsword, but it'll be a gun lance.
Wide swipes only.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? If I could do that aerial thing, that'd be all right. Just like do that in the ground, the aerial AoE thing, which you have to like charge shells and whatnot in order to do. It's kind of weird because who the hell doesn't do, what's it called? I can't believe Blast Dash. I almost like forgot about that. Sleep deprivation kicking in. Have you Blast Dashed at all yet, Jonno?
No, I haven't touched the Gunlance in Rise.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's great because all I see on Reddit and Twitter when there's a Gunlance, it's
okay.
bad.
It's 99.9% of the community is the same. So
no, but
I'm just ragging on you.
It was funny because like the first time that I used that ability, there was like a video that I uploaded on a secondary channel, and it's just me. Just like jumping around. Look at this. I can do it 3 times. Just like jumping everywhere. It's
the fun lance.
It is indeed the fun lance. Like
it is really fun.
So I'm curious about one thing. So if you've kind of started hardcore back in like for you've also played 3 Ultimate. Obviously, those games have a much slower pace than what we've been moving to. Now with World and Iceborne, that they quickened up the pace. They made everything more fluid. Unlike the I'm gonna put air quotes in clunky combat, because a lot of people refer to the old combat as clunky. I think it's like it's just different.
It's deliberate, yeah. I think deliberate's
the deliberate is the proper word, but a lot of people are just like, no, it's clunky. It's like whatever, but you can call it clunky. But then you look at people like Kanta basically exploiting the crap out of a monster, not even letting it move with this clunky combat, and somehow you're like, maybe I just don't know how to use it properly. But anyways, it's like my question is like about the pacing. Like, where do you land on the pacing? Do you prefer the like, I think Rise is the fastest the series has ever been. It's like super fast, make it go mega fast. Or do you prefer the more deliberate play styles of like, even let's just take it back to like World and Iceborne is still plenty deliberate versus Rise. Yeah. Like, which one do you see yourself playing more?
So, some context on this one. I'm a huge Devil May Cry fan. I love Devil May Cry, and I love that kind of pace of combat and things like that. So I really enjoy Rise's combat. Like, but what I think when we look at it is kind of like each Monster Hunter is offering a different experience within that shared universe and the shared gameplay. So you know what you're gonna get when you go into Monster Hunter, but you're gonna get something different, and that's how the team evolves the game. And you know, like, I think it's good that we see these changes. Like, I really like the faster paced combat in Rise. I really love, you know, using my skills and managing my cooldowns on my wire bugs and things like that, because I think as a Capcom fan and as a gamer, I love that kind of combat, fast paced counters, dodging, getting in there, getting out of there. But then, you know, if I go back and play for you and stuff, I love it where I have to be really calculated and I have to commit to what I'm doing, and I get punished if I'm wrong in that kind of commitment. And I think in the kind of the slower games, you know, you can then draw comparisons to like early Souls games as well. You know, if you're using a two-hander and you go in, you've got to make sure you respect and you understand the timings. Like, if you go up against a monster and you're learning it and you're just swinging, you're going to get punished. But once you learn the monster, you know when to do it. And I think with the earlier titles, there's that real sense of reward, and you're like, yes, I've mastered this monster, because if I didn't, I would have got hit a lot here, because I can't just roll out. I'm drinking a potion and flexing. I can't, you know, I can't get out of that.
Yeah, my theory is that Monster Hunter took off more in the West from, I would say, I mean, 3 you did decent for sure and showed that the core formula was golden, but I think 4U really took off because it was the addition of verticality. It felt more action-oriented than it ever had, and I think that's when it really started making a transition more towards the action side than the hunting side. And I think that's a good thing, because, I mean, look at, like, you were just talking about bowguns and stuff earlier. Like, in the older games, you had no terrain, you know, verticality. So you shoot, if you're in front of the monster, you're hitting it. Like, there wasn't that much to think about. So, you know, the challenge was more in the timing and everything and the positionings, because it was really tight. But now there's so much fun stuff that you can do with the environments that if you were to keep that same amount of focus on your attacks and the tight timings, I think it could risk going into like stressful territory. So I think it's a good trade-off overall. But I like what you said, though, like, you know, every Monster Hunter game offering something new and different, because that's the only way you evolve the formula of a franchise. And no, this is not a swipe at any other major franchises that have similar releases every year. Oh, come on. I jest. But no, it's because it's nice, because you don't get anywhere without trying something new, and knowing that you have the freedom within the mainline games to say, this particular series, we're going to try something completely new, and we're going to try a new fresh. Maybe we'll keep doing it. Maybe we'll try other stuff, but you're never going to find out, you know, what's fun unless you just try it. So the experimental nature of the team is amazing. Like, especially for AAA. Like, most studios would be like, no, if it's sold really well, you should be adhering to this formula until it no longer works. You know, so that shows a good focus on the dev side more than the marketing side, so to say.
Yeah.
But then again, I think Capcom has good marketing as well, so.
I think that also shows like why me as an individual is stuck with Sword and Shield, because each time I pick up the next Monster Hunter game and I go, this is the best the Sword and Shield has ever been. I don't know how they're going to make this weapon better. And then I'm like, this is the best version of the Sword and Shield. Like, how you can take something, and they do it with 14 different weapons. And like, when I tell my friends about Monster Hunter who don't play it yet and stuff like that, I'm like, every weapon is like playing a whole new game. You can spend, 50 hours playing one weapon, and you're like, oh yeah, I've done this game. Then you pick up another one, and you're like, and then you want to play through it again because it's just a whole different experience. And that's what I've done. Like when I started playing on the PC version of Rise, I picked up Hunting Horn. Because I was like, this is unlike anything I've used. Yeah, and it's just that how you keep building on top of what you already know works and trying new things. And yeah, that's what I really, really like. And Rise in particular, I think, gives you real hero moments. You pull off that counter, you pull off that big silk bind attack that, knocks down the monster and saves someone from a car and things like that. You get those, especially in the West, we love those kind of adrenaline pumping moments. Or when you're like, look what I did that, or we accomplished this. And, it's very...
of the hunt.
Yeah. Exactly. Can you imagine?
Put on the what is it?
That's the
camera.
Overwatch style thing. Play of the match.
Yeah.
Then they have like some dramatic.
Just proof of the hero playing in the background.
Just put proof of the hero.
And then you just find out that your Palico's taking the MVP every time.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a collection of your cat killing the monster before you.
Dude, my Palicos were friggin' beast, dude, friggin' insane. So I was wondering, like, in terms of considering that you have the pulse on the community and all of that. So with the feedback that you've received, did you feel like most people prefer the more traditional console experience of like Iceborne, or most people liked Rise, or did you get an idea of that? Or because like there was definitely a divide, I felt like in the community when that went down.
I think looking at it, I mean, obviously the first thing is for us is we obviously Rise is out on Nintendo Switch and PC. So that community, there is cross-pollination, obviously. Yeah. For example, like many of people own multiple platforms, but the kind of traditional Xbox and PlayStation communities are separate in many cases from the Nintendo Switch and PC. But yeah, I've not seen, you see people lament going, oh, I'd love to play this on my home console kind of thing, and things like that. But what was interesting for me is actually kind of seeing how chill the Nintendo Switch and PC communities were by and large with each other, because they're kind of like polar opposites in one regard, going from like, your handheld portable console to kind of like your power tower in your house and stuff like that.
I've noticed that on the streams that you've been doing, you're playing the Switch version.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't feel like grinding everything all over again on PC, I take it.
So I played PC, I think, on stream for nearly a month, maybe around a month straight after PC launch. And, luckily the PC community were like dragging me up on my HR rank with my little hunting horn. The thing is, I couldn't get the Magna plates or the Magna gems to drop. I was like, come on. So my poor hunting horn, until I got the Teostra one, was kind of a bit underleveled. But yeah, and then I've switched back to Switch. Kind of like to prepare for Sunbreak, really, because I think I'm going to enter Sunbreak on my Switch,
Yep.
So I got stock up on Zenny, on materials, who knows what I'm going to need it for. I just know I need a lot.
I feel like with the amount of people that got into the game with World and Iceborne, which was like, I still think it's like the most successful Capcom game ever, as far as I'm aware, World, right? With the amount of people that join in from that, and a lot of them don't understand that this was primarily like a handheld game, and that a lot of the success that the game had was due to the PSP days, when people would just like get together with the PSP. Even in the West, like obviously in Japan, way more so, because in Japan they've always done gaming on commutes and stuff like that. It's always been a thing, even though COVID kind of put a bit of a damper on that. But like And they don't understand that the series has always been somewhat of a handheld to a certain extent, and the Rise version is definitely, you can tell that it was designed for Switch. Yes, it runs on PC and you can play it fine on PC and all that, But it's just there's
Fine.
something about
it plays really well.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the release of Elden Ring, saying that something plays fine on PC. It's like, no, Rise runs friggin' fantastic on PC for sure. But it's like there is something about playing it on Switch that I find more appealing as well, which is why because I also played it like on the release date. Like I did tons and tons of streams on PC, went all the way to the end, did the hardest things and all that. And I was like, you know what? I feel like going back to the Switch, playing on Switch again. I bought the OLED Switch.
Because now you got the OLED. So
I bought the OLED. So it looks so good on the OLED screen. It's friggin' good.
Yeah, I need to get one of those. I was on the fence when they came out, but now I'm like, especially like if I'm heading into the office and stuff. Now, obviously, I'm like, oh, I should really kind of, upgrade for these commutes.
The biggest thing I feel like with the OLED version is the battery. The battery lifetime is much better than like the default one. So like they came out with the version 2 of Switch, whatever, which is like it doesn't have any better stats or anything, but it has slightly better battery life. And that one was decent. The OLED is even better with that stuff than the second version of it. So that's one of the things that I really, really like personally. But yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to treat myself soon, aren't I?
The
Especially
thing is,
with Sunbreak coming,
The thing is, I don't know if Nintendo is planning on that Switch Pro that comes around every other week, where someone's like, no, guys, this time it's for. There's been Switch Pro rumors since like 2017 when the Switch launched. People are like, every week somebody's like, no, guys, Switch Pro, it's coming. It's 1,000% it's coming.
Today's the day, yeah.
Today's the day it's coming out. But yeah, that's.
I've got a weird, completely unrelated question. It just popped in my head. I thought I would just traditionally, as I break the flow of conversation, always.
That's the way to do it.
Who would you consider? Like, I'm assuming you are aware. A lot of people, especially in Japan, call someone like Yankuku their sensei, and it's a kind of like their endearing term for the teacher that. It was like it's not a wall, but it's like the first, like, okay, this is a real fight, and like, it's like, okay, I gotta learn the basics of this game now. Like the first large monster that really got you feeling like, okay, now I think I've been taught how to handle monsters. Who would you consider your sensei?
My one, and I think it's an interesting one, would be Tetsukabra. Because, and the reason for that is obviously when you go into high rank, it's the first kind of monster that you really kind of farm. Well, for me, I farmed that for my high rank set because I think I got it from your video. It was like, this is, farm this set. It's a good all-rounder and all of that. And by fighting Tetsukabra so much and really learning its moveset, in the end, I was dancing around it. I was farming it, consistently. And it really kind of informed me about how I should approach fighting monsters. And I saw my own development going from, X amount of time hunts to like half of that and things like that. And then from that set as well, it then allowed me to progress through the early stages of the high ranks and things like that. So not only did it teach me, it then carried me forward, by wearing its skin. But, so for me, Tetsukabra.
Yeah, I like Tetsukabra because I find that it teaches people how to deal with anticipation really well because he's modeled off of a sumo wrestler of all things, and so he does the big sumo stomp where he puts the leg up in the air and you see it coming, but he holds it and you're like, it reminds me of Elden Ring actually in a way because Elden Ring does the same trolley thing where they'll hold it. So if you see it and you try to react like split second, you'll get hit. So it's like no, you gotta wait and then you gotta look for the downward movement and then you move, and it teaches you how to deal with anticipation by not panicking and sort of just like trying to be more observant. It's like all you had to do is back up. You would be cool. But nope. You're like, what am I going to do?
Gonna roll now. But I do that in Rise so much though. I get told off on stream because I'll panic Wirefall and then get comboed. Like I'll do it against All Mother Nawa. And I know you're very good against All Mother Nawa. But like, she'll hit me and then I'll be like, right, but a Wirefall, and then she'll like flick me with her tail and stuff like that. And same with like, Apex Emergency, like Azuros. Like it's another one where I'll panic rather than just laying down for a bit and, taking stock of what's happened. I'm like, oh, better go, and then I'm straight back to camp.
It's good old panic wirefalls. It's like I said, if there was one thing I could change about Rise, because people have asked me this, if there was one thing you could change about Rise, what would it be? And I'd be like, I get rid of wirefall. Not Silkbind skills, not wire bugs, just wirefall and nothing else. Like, nah.
You know what? After we we'll go into why, and then I'll tell you, I've had an actual thought about how to balance it in a way that I think you would like it.
So the reasoning as to why is mostly because, like I said, I feel like I like the faster pace. It's fun every now and then, but ultimately I'm the kind of player that would prefer the more deliberate play style of the, not necessarily the earliest Monster Hunters, but like something more in line with Monster Hunter World. That pacing feels a little bit better to me, of a little bit more deliberate and not as like zoom here, zoom there, go, go, go. Zoom, zoom. So it's like if you just remove wirefall, in a way, you know, Capcom also would have to adjust the monsters so that they're not just like zooming onto you all the time. And it would just be a more deliberate thing. You could even have the monsters do a little bit more damage if needed to compensate for that or something. But to have more deliberate combat, because I'm getting old, right? I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 this year. It's like, I'm too old for these Zoom games. Zoom, 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 super fast. It's like, nah, I can't do it.
See, I find it funny. I think Ibushi is a great example of kind of like wirebug usage and how you deliberately choose to use them. So, you know, if you use them on some big attacks and then you get hit in the air by one of his tornadoes and you see him winding up that follow-up for about 5 seconds, and you know what's coming and you can't get out of it.
Can't do
and
anything.
you kind of think like, I wish I had have been a bit more resourceful with my wirebug usage. But yeah, so actually it's funny you say, because you used the word deliberate. Obviously in the earlier titles it used to be deliberate combat use. You know, I'm going to attack now, but now it's deliberate use of spending resource with your wirebugs. And it's kind of interesting how it's kind of evolved or kind of transferred away from your combat actions directly to kind of like these kind of like combat supporting actions, I guess.
Mm.
But then I'm a big fan of wirebugs, so.
I mean, wirebugs are great. Like specifically for Silkbind skills, the amount of flashy stuff that you can do, I think that's fun. Because I mean, I play friggin' Gunlance. I'm all about the flashiness and doing crazy things. And I for a long while, my play style was like one of the least viable things you could imagine. Because I was just like, I don't care about the meta, it's whatever. So my play style was blast dashing into the monster, and then while I'm next to the monster, I would air shell him, which is terrible. It's a terrible thing, but you would air shell until you run out of shells, and then as you're coming down, you press hail cutter. So your dude reloads the gun lance midair, slams down, and then you full burst at the end. And that's great. But imagine the animation commitment of doing that stuff and how many times that would fail. But it's hilarious when it works and you like dunk on a monster. Like, for instance, one of the first dunks I did with that was Rock Nakataki. She'd be on the ceiling of like the lava caverns. And I'd blast dash up there, shell, slam, and bring her down. And that's just like amazing. It's like, I don't care if it's meta. Look at what I just did.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that like you can't get over the flashiness of a Gunlance player. Like when you see them in the hunt, sometimes you just want to kind of sit back and just take it in, the spectacle. Or like you're running at a monster and then all of a sudden this rocket comes right by you and it's a person.
I am the Volstrax.
Exactly.
But Gaijin, you wanted to do a
here's an idea I was thinking about.
Wirefall?
Yeah, I mean, I love Wirefall, but I think one solve that might make it feel better for you or for people who think that it's a get out of jail free card, which it certainly isn't. I don't necessarily agree with that view, but it would make sense to me that you would take maybe 20% extra damage if you got hit during a Wirefall because you have the momentum. And you're getting sent back with more momentum. You know, it's like the inertia of the hit. Like if you imagine if you're doing a wirefall away from Arzuros and he smacks you, you would probably take more damage, right? Because you're moving with it and you're getting slammed in the ground harder. What if they made it so that wirefall did just a little bit more damage if you got hit during it? So it's more of a high risk, high reward type of thing. Yes, you can get out of the way or get back in there, but if you get hit, you know, you're going to take a little bit extra damage than you normally do.
So there are other Japanese games where they do stuff like, I'm not sure if they did that in Monster or not, I don't remember, but a mechanic where like if you get hit during a dodge, like that's more punishing than just getting hit normally. And I can see that being an interesting mechanic. Yeah, making Wirefall more punishing. It doesn't really do much to change the pace, but you know.
But in the flip side, I would like to see follow-up attacks, like after you do a Wirefall, like 3 seconds, 2 seconds maybe. Like an attack from Wirefall does more damage. Like apply the inertia both ways. So if you take the risk to jump right back in there, you get a small little, like maybe that first attack, it's a little ching, like a critical hit, like a guarantee or a higher critical rate. Or if you get hit during it, you take a little bit more damage.
I know I'd end up in camp a lot more.
but I think it's great. I love how it is. And I think most of the concerns are going to be solved once we get Master Rank, because they're going to hit so much harder and they're going to move so much more aggressively that I think Wirefall is going to be it's going to be like the auto guard. Like when you take that off in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, it's like, I don't know how to guard anything. It's it's time to learn how to move.
Isn't auto guard in 4U? Am I getting that wrong?
No.
It was in 3U as well?
It was only in 3U. I thought it was only in 3U.
No, it was definitely in 4U because Tetsukabra set had it. And I had it. And yes, in 4U. Tetsukabra set had auto guard. Pretty sure. I mean, it's been years. I don't know.
It's been a while.
But I'm pretty sure that 4U had auto guard. I think you're mistaking it a little bit there, but I don't know.
Okay, well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, have you seen the clips that have been being uploaded to Twitter? I feel so bad. I've been so obsessed with eating up Final Fantasy before Sunbreak comes, because I want to dedicate my time to Sunbreak, that I haven't bathed in it. So I definitely want to talk in this podcast about some of the more recent stuff that's being shown and just what we're excited for and stuff like that. But I don't even remember his name, but the
Malzeno? No, it has to be
Mr. Gorilla.
Garangolm, dude, he's like my favorite one of the ones that's been revealed so far.
Dude is like a Bloodborne boss with his huge body swinging and slamming. Like, Wirefall is going to be deadly on that guy. Like, that's going to be hard to navigate, and I can't wait.
His rocket jump intense as well, he comes across like quite cumbersome, but then all of a sudden, like, he's rocket jumping and things like that, and then throwing rocks. Like, and I love the dual element. Like, when I think about, build crafting and stuff, I'm like, okay, so this is a master rank monster that's going to hit with kind of two kind of opposite elements, which could be tricky to build sets around. I was really hype when I saw Garangolm. I was like, yes, please.
So how about that Elgado Outpost? Like, how are you feeling about essentially Yomogi creating McDongo's franchise, where she just like she's just like spreading her dongos over. I was really expecting Elgado to have like their own cantina, because like I feel like our hunters are all going to be suffering from diabetes when we get there, because like they've been all of this time they've just been eating dongo nonstop in Kamura. Then we get to Elgado, in comes more dongo. I really expected another cafeteria, like almost like the old cat nan in Iceborne, where she actually, here's your little stew thing, and it's very different from the rest of the meat. And here's like, here's some more sugar. Sugar.
Carbs, man.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think from a gameplay perspective, I think the familiarity is nice, because there's a lot to learn in Master Rank, and then to then have to kind of get your head around that. But also on a more lore basis, I'm really pleased to see Yomogi's entrepreneurship kind of going, and to see her business succeed across the waves. So yeah,
she's an entrepreneur. Dongos.
Well, at least now we know that Hinoa might show up, because she wouldn't go if there was no dongos there. She'd have to have like a box with her. So if she can have fresh dongo, we can get her to come over as well. That'd be nice.
I don't know if Hinoa is gonna go there or not, dude. You already know that I'm all about the blacksmith lady. I forget her name off the top of my head.
Yes, I can see how into you are. You don't even know her name. The blacksmith lady.
She's the blacksmith lady. Like
she hit you in the head with a hammer for that.
Jonno?
You know what? It skipped my mind as well.
See, what's your name, Gaijin? Go on. Tell me.
Huh?
Look at him googling it. I can. People can't see it. People can't see it because they can't see your. But I can see it. I see it in your face.
No.
You open Google, dude.
No, it's Miss Forge. What are you talking about?
What? No, it's not.
I know. I'm joking.
Miss Forge.
It's not Little Miss Forge, but it's Miss Forge.
Yeah, Miss Forge.
Hey, how is Miss Fortune? Are you misfortunate today? Never mind. That's just bad. Okay, never mind. That worked better in my head when I just popped in there, and then it came out, and it's like, no, that doesn't work.
So with the apexes that we've gotten, like the super apexes, I've seen a lot of people talk about, particularly the rewards, because like for me, I've had discussions about this in my streams as well, about how it's like I'll be throwing my head against one of these harder bosses, and I'm like, and people are like, why are you doing it? It's not even worth it. And I'm like, what do you mean? The boss itself is kind of like the reason I'm doing it, because that's fun. Like, is that something that the team has maybe talked about? I mean, if you can even say anything about that stuff or not. If they take
that kind of feedback. That kind of feedback is always collated by us on the community team.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very interesting one, because I think it's very much the kind of dichotomy of, what do you as an individual see as a suitable reward for a quest? And, everyone loves more gear. I love more gear. You love getting more gear. But also, sometimes, like, the challenge is enough. Like, I love the challenge. When I beat these hard monsters, that enough is huge for me. And, then I get, like, some gold eggs and the rampage tickets and things like that. But like, I remember when I beat Apex Emergency Mizutsune in multiplayer, and that was something, especially because, well, that's my weakest by far. Like, I'm terrible against Mizutsune, probably because I don't hunt her a lot, because like I just don't use Mizutsune's gear. So
him. It's a him.
Sorry.
Which led to some very saucy fan art once we had the Zenogre and Mitsune. Once that came out, we were like, "Oh yeah, now we're gonna draw a lot of stuff." So.
Oh no!
Some really fun art.
But yeah, Mitsune was just the combination of like the backflip and the beam attacks and things like that. But it's very much a valid thing. People like to have a way, I think, to show off their success. And obviously in World and Iceborne, you got these layered armors that you could then go, look, I've beaten this monster because I'm wearing this. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be some ways to show off prestige as we move into Master Rank. But I think the Apex Emergency quest were kind of done as like okay, you've gone through, you've unlocked all this cool stuff. Go challenge yourself. And a lot of the layered armor was actually put behind more approachable quests and hunts. The more of the player base could feasibly unlock and enjoy. So yeah, I think that's kind of like how I see it anyway. But yeah, when it comes to kind of feedback of people want more, more reward for their challenge, yeah, that is something we do take note of. When we do our reports.
It kind of makes me wonder, and you weren't there at the time that this came around, but it kind of makes me wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that, how the Drachen set came from Extremoth, and Extremoth was no joke. Like it was I think it was one of the hardest things at the time that it came out. Now it's obviously easier because you have Iceborne gear and all of this stuff. But when it came out, because that was essentially something designed for an MMO, and I actually went into it with MMO tactics in mind, to the point where I'd be like, okay, guys, listen, if you get targeted by Charybdis, then move it over to the corner of the map so that we don't have a million tornadoes in the middle. I had to ask one of my friends to actually swap weapons because he was playing Aerial Glaive. And I'm like, you can't play Aerial Glaive because you can't see when you have Charybdis and you're going to kill us all with tornadoes. And it's like, there's all of these things going into it, and I can imagine that probably a lot of people didn't get their Drachen layered armor, because in order to get the layered armor, you had to actually beat Extremoth. So I guess that might have been something that the team took into account and be like, okay, let's make layered armors a little bit more approachable for people that want to get that, and then just have, like, I don't know, titles or a sticker or something for people that want to go the extra mile for the additional challenge.
Yeah, and so it's always about striking a balance there, because you want to be able to suitably reward your hardcore players, and then as well, without kind of like icing out the wider player base too. And I think as has been the case with previous Monster Hunter titles, Master Rank is a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
And when you see people wearing the high end, late Master Rank gear or G Rank gear, you know they don't play around, and I think that will be like a big kind of like kind of boon. And what's like on that note as well, like seeing some of like the kind of early Master Rank gear kind of being drip fed through our assets on social has been really fun. Like I love, one of my things I love the most is seeing how high rank gear evolves into Master Rank gear and kind of seeing how it develops. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm a big kind of like fashion hunter.
Yeah. I mean, that's the real end game. Let's get real. I mean, fashion hunting, crafting layered armors. I actually think that the system that you guys did for Rise was perfect, because with World, there was always this weird thing of like, okay, so now I get the armor, but then eventually an event comes out later that lets me use it as layered. Whereas in Rise, it's like, no, armor's unlocked, and now you can craft the layered version as well. Boom, go. Because I mean, I guess the PC version of the game might have also influenced that, because you guys probably noticed like, hey, people are just modding this stuff in.
So Jonno, I'm really curious now that we know also like your favorite weapons that you've used. What are your favorite monsters? I mean, I know it changes probably like most of us every other day, every other minute.
Yeah.
But like if you could think up of like, I don't know, anywhere like 3 to 5 that you really like. They may not be your favorites. What would they be and why?
So my number one, like undisputed, is Brachydios. I love Brachy. I love its look. I love its fight. I love its music. I love blast weapons. Like blast weapons or slime back then were the first weapons I really, really liked. I loved the explosion and how the status worked and things like that. So Brachy is like, yeah. Like,
what's your favorite version of him? Like all the different iterations and variations. Like what game and what version of the monster do you enjoy the most?
My all-time favorite variation is probably Raging Brachydios. Like just the way the fight ends.
Okay,
the last.
It's such a spectacle.
Very important thing. Monster Hunter World Iceborne Raging Brachydios or other Raging.
Or Iceborne.
Okay, because like if you were gonna go the other one, I was like, I don't trust you. You were lying.
Raging, like the way the music amps up and how they built upon the original soundtrack for Brachy, and then just you're locked in with each other and you're going all out. And I think the Gillis could be Brachy and there's no other monster that fights like it, with the slime coming down, and it's big but it moves really quickly and kind of like likes to kind of shoulder charge you and things. And yeah, I just love Brachy, and like when it's eating at its kind of like its arms and stuff like that. Yeah, Brachy. Yeah, it's just such a cool monster. When like there's nothing else like it out there. This is so quintessentially Monster Hunter, and I love it. And then kind of following on, I think the rest are kind of then in a shared pool of monsters that I have a soft spot for. So Zamtrios is up there as well. I love sharks, always have since I was a kid. I also think ice elements are really cool, and the fact this shark's got ice armor and then it can blow itself up. And I used to fight a lot of Zamtrios and also the sand version as well. But yeah, Zamtrios, I just love it. I love sharks. I love that there's a shark monster and it comes up on the land. And fights, which is why I love Luna Garon for that reason, because I see a lot of positive comparison between the ice armor and the shape and things like that. Also, I really like Seltas Queen. Seltas Queen is another favorite of mine. Reason being, the first large monster you fight is a Seltas in the and then you're like, oh wow, this is fun, and then it turns out it's literally just like
fodder,
a consumable for Seltas Queen. Yeah, like and like I just think she's such a great hunt. Like once again, there's nothing really else like Seltas Queen.
Yeah.
Also Nasilla. Now I'm scared of spiders in real life. I'm borderline arachnophobic. Like I can't deal with spiders, but I'm fine with them in video games.
I have to say something right there. So for all of you people out there that are going like, Oh no, I like Raknikadaki is way better than Nursilla. No, you see, it's wrong. Jonno just said it's wrong. Forget about it. You're wrong.
I like Rachnar as well. Don't get me wrong. Like
no. Don't bow down now, Jonno. Let him know. Nursilla's the one, dude. Come on. She web slings.
Cool. Yeah, like web slings
of all
runs
times
under.
to use that GIF, we need the why not both GIF right now.
Sure, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, and like the fact that Nursilla can run under the vines and try and get you from underneath and stuff like that. Yeah. I thought once again it was a very unique style hunt. Who else? Obviously Tetsukabra, a very soft spot because that's the monster that really got me into high rank and things like that. So really big fan of Tetsu. God, I don't want to forget anyone. Otherwise, I'll be really guilty when I see them next. Najrala,
nobody likes her.
I'm like the only person who loves that monster.
Nobody likes Najrala. No,
I do. Am I know?
Actually, I'll tell you what. I've seen a lot of requests for Najrala in my comment section. A lot of people love Najrala.
Love that monster.
I was memeing just now, but no, there's actually a lot of really dedicated Najrala fans out there for sure. They even want not just Najrala, but they just want more snakes. More snake-like monsters.
Yeah, snakes are good. Snakes are great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
baby Dalamaters running around. At you.
Can you imagine? Oh my goodness.
Why does it have to be snakes? I hate snakes, and you get 50 Dalamater babies.
the ever fight. And obviously for me as well, I'm a big fan of Gormagala. I love the aesthetic. As the hair can probably tell, in my younger days, I was very much, into the rock scene and stuff like that, and kind of goth scene and bits. And I love the aesthetic that kind of Gore kind of carries. I love the frenzy mechanic, which later on I kind of experienced again in Bloodborne, where you need to stay on the aggressive. If you want to overcome this adversity, you've got to be aggressive. You have to, get back into the fight. So I love Gore. I think it's a fantastic monster, and when it transforms, it gets the purple kind of tendrils coming out, and the armor
goes all purple.
Exactly. You kind of become this Dark Knight when you've got the armor on and the purple sword and shield. Loved that. But yeah, it's just great, and I think when I look at my favorites, they're not all a particular type of monster. They're all so varied, and I really like Almudron as well in Rise. Because it's this kind of, the big kind of classic kind of dragon shape, but then it's using mud. Yeah, the way it uses the mud pillars and things like that. Because I love, when I play games, when I'm playing, PvP, I like to be a zoner. I like to zone people and control them and play my game and kind of play into my hand. And I think that Almudron is the monster version of that. It's no, you're stuck in here. No, you're stuck in here with me.
If you play Magic the Gathering, you'd be a blue deck user.
Yeah, he's a blue.
Is that a control deck? Is it?
Yeah, it's a control. Yeah. It's literally blue control deck. Yeah, but the thing about Almudron, my biggest complaint is that I would love to see Almudron just kind of become a bit of a different fight when you chop the tail. I would love it if you would actually chop a chunk, because dude's got massive tail and you chop off a little pubic hair, that's it, that's your tail chop. Okay,
that's a colorful way of putting it. Jesus. Wow,
that one just kind of came out. I didn't really think that one out that well.
You carved high-grade pubic hair. What can I craft with that?
I mean, it's one of his little yellow tendrils things that you chop off. I just wish that when it comes to Almudron, that you could actually chop, because there's just something viscerally satisfying about chopping off a bit of the monster, right? You get a tail chop, that's a big deal. I know that for
Celtus Queen, baby.
Probably for veterans that have played the game for ages, they're chopping a tail, it's whatever. But you need to understand, for someone that starts fresh, chopping a tail is just such a dominating move. It's I cut that bit off him, right? So it's I wanted that visceral satisfaction from Almudron, where it's look at how big his tail is, and you'd actually just chop a friggin' you'd cut up a steak that could feed the whole village. That's what I would want. And then they could kind of change the fight. Maybe you would I don't know, squirt bleed on you or something from his chopped tail. I don't know, some other kind of weird mechanic. I think that would be interesting. Actually change the fight.
If he did have a big tail, I'd still forget to carve it. I'm terrible at that. The monster changes zones and there's a tail sat there and it's gone.
They're did you get the tail? Oh shoot! And he's going back to camp. Like, no.
So I'm curious about one thing, which is so when it came time to Iceborne, I'm not sure if you were following the scene as closely back then, but like when Alatreon came out and when Fatalis came out, the game actually got review bombed on Steam. Like people actually review bombed because like this is too hard. Like
it's a sign of success, Rory. To get review bombed.
Yeah, sure. But it's like, how did you feel about those fights? Like the first time that you fought, say for instance, Alatreon, did you like it? Did you think it was like, okay, this is weird, it's making me not use my raw set and I mean, you like Element, we've established this.
Yeah.
But like, did you feel that maybe it was too hard? Did you feel it was just right? How did you feel about it?
So this is a very interesting question, actually, because I think difficulty is very much subjective, depending on who's being asked that question.
Yeah.
They are hard hunts. Alatreon is a hard hunt. There's no denying it. But me as an individual, I love a challenge, so I like that. But kind of taking a step back at it, I think, especially with the meta being raw based in the kind of world in Iceborne, it was a shock to the system for a lot of people. And I think sometimes it can be tricky as an individual to go, why isn't this working? Is it something I could be doing different here? And it's this weird combination where you have this really challenging monster that is unlike anything else you've played in Iceborne, that you have to use elements for. And then if you're not successful in those windows, it will change element and then it gets a lot harder. And then obviously the fail state is very clear because you get the big AoE Nova kind of attack and you're back to camp. So yeah, but then I think as well it was what the penultimate monster added to Iceborne. So it was Alatreon, and then then we got Frostfang Barioth, then we got Fatalis,
and then there was still Arch-Tempered Volcana.
Yeah.
Oh, Arch-Tempered Volcana. So it was it was one of the last monsters of the Master Rank expansion. So I think there should be a challenge present, but yeah, it's very much anyone you ask will give you a different answer, and I want to like kind of I can't speak as like kind of going like, oh, this is, but for me, I enjoyed the challenge. It was a hard hunt. It was incredibly hard, but it felt incredibly rewarding to beat. And then I realized once I'd beaten it that the reason I was being set up like that is because having Alatreon's gear and Alatreon's weapons was just setting me up for Fatalis. So if I could beat Alatreon and multiple times and make a set, I'll have a better chance against the big bad that was on the horizon. Little did we know at the time. So yeah, it's definitely, I can see why for many it would be jarring, because some people are like, well, I want to play this way. I want to do it my way. I want to use my raw longsword or whatever like that. But I do think variety is good as well, because if you do decide to kind of face that challenge head on, you become a better player in that particular game. You can then share that knowledge with others as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's the whole debate of, I paid for this game, therefore I should be able to just do what I want to complete it, versus, I'm entering a game. I need to play the game kind of to succeed with the game. Kind of like Jumanji, you can't, you gotta go with the flow a bit. But yeah, it's very much an interesting one, and I think there's so many, like, what do you guys think actually as well? Do you agree, or do you have a different stance on it?
Personally, I just really like the fact that, they actually made you use Elemental, but it still made me a little bit sad that it's like it came out of nowhere, right? Whereas like it would have been cool if you would have trained people to be more mindful that elemental damage can and should be like a viable way to play, besides just like, say, I think in Iceborne it would have been like dual blades, bows, and insect glaive maybe in some situations, not even always. There's like 3 weapons that can, and I guess maybe some of the bow guns. Again, bow guns is not my thing, so. But, that would have been cool if more weapons could have been trained to use it, because the thing was, even players that were not like amazing players that I knew that they were average players, I know that they were able to solo it using like the fish sword. Like I had a friend of mine that just soloed it with that big fish sword with a ton of like ice damage.
Awesome. Beatotus weapons were great for that fight.
No, not Beatotus, like the joke weapon that's like a swordfish.
The literal.
the big tuna.
the tuna.
Spearfish.
The frozen spear tuna. Yeah, that's the name of it. So I think it was very much doable. It was just a matter of people like, reorganizing their thought process. And I also feel like the attack felt too punishing for people. The one shot from what was it called, Eschaton Judgment. I think that people felt that very harshly because up until that point, yeah, there's monsters that will hit you hard, but they won't just like flat out kill you, because a lot of people are like, I can handle the monster no problem so long as the Eschaton Judgment mechanic's not there. And I would tell people, well, if that's the case, you can just cart and then go back in and kill it.
Go back in, yeah.
Because like if you've mastered the fight, Eschaton Judgment's not going to stop you, because there's 2 carts that you can do, even 3 or 4 depending on other conditions that you can like add into the hunt. So you can kind of fix that.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can fix that problem and then you can still go in and kill it. The thing is, you haven't mastered the whole fight, and on top of it, you have Eschaton Judgment that you're dealing with. So personally, I loved it. I'll tell you right now, I did it with Slaplance. Like slapstick gunlance.
Bop.
I spent 13 hours to get a kill that I was happy with, and that kill was like, I don't know, sub 15 or whatever, something like that. And I was like, yes, sub 15 minutes. But it was like 13 hours of me just like playing against it nonstop, boom, boom, until I got it down. But I like doing that stuff, and I understand that not everybody likes it. But I think it's one of those things where, for instance, when Fatalis came out, I made a video where I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to kill this. But that's okay. Like, I think that's fine. It's aspirational content that you can kind of like look forward to. Hey, maybe I'll try it again today. Maybe I'll see if I can do it or not. And I was ready for eventually not being able to kill it solo. And I was like, hey, that's fine. If I can't kill it solo, I'll get some more people and I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, like I didn't do Fatalis solo. I always did it in at least a pair or in a 4. But then I love Monster Hunter. I play for it solo, but the multiplayer is what really it just takes it to another level for me. I love that the camaraderie. I love seeing all the things that happen. So Fatalis was never really in my head, and same with Alatreon. Never a solo thing, because I just always look to play with my friends, or I would always do an SOS flare and things like that. And Fatalis was great. And something interesting, you mentioned that obviously we've seen in Elden Ring as well recently, where the core story, the bosses or certain monsters aren't as extreme. So anyone that picks up the game can probably get through, enjoy the story, take in all of that, and then the aspirational content or optional content is where the dial really gets cranked up. Yeah. And I thought that was actually a really great compromise. And kind of, now you said that, I've actually thought back to Iceborne and went, these are really cool monsters and the gear is awesome, but you won't lose out on the kind of core story experience. And they've all come out after launch and things like that. Because I do think the challenge should be there if you want it, and in a way that doesn't stop you from kind of fulfilling the game itself.
But the funny thing about the Fatalis thing was my first kill of Fatalis was like the most contrived, over the top, hilarious thing. So I have like 4 different sets that I go in planning on dying in order to proc. What's the name of it? Fortify. I had all this thing, so I go in. And it's like the first thing I do is I go in with a set that's got like heavy artillery, cannon blast, boom, 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 boom.
I do the same.
And in that set, I also have a greatsword. So the second that thing ends, I jump on him with the greatsword, and I literally don't even heal myself. It's like I'll hit you until I die. Then I die, I go back. Did you ever see the clutch cannon build?
No.
So the clutch cannon build was a build that you would do with a heavy bowgun. And again, I don't play these weapons, but the idea is you pump a bunch of damage into it, you put health regen on the gun, and then you jump and you just clutch on a monster's face and fire. And just do that repeatedly. You can
all in.
You could destroy Velkhana, because Velkhana doesn't have a lot of punish moves for clutching to her head. So you could literally just like destroy Velkhana and she would do almost nothing if you would use this. So I did this, and again, the strategy was, I'm not going to heal myself. I'm going to do this until I die. Just to deal as much damage as possible and then die. And then after that, then I would go in with the sword and shield to finish it off. And it was exhilarating because I killed him, and then I think I had 20 seconds or something left before the quest was over. And in the last moment, I'm just like mashing the circle and go like, just die, just die, just anything, just die.
And the way that hunt is designed, I love it, because you get to like the last stage, you survive the first couple of infernos, and if you're breaking the head, it's getting a little bit easier, but Fatalis gets even more dangerous the closer it is to death. it feels, even when you're breaking the head with the moves that come out, and then you pop the Dragonator, Proof of a Hero plays, but then also it's almost like Fatalis has its own Proof of a Hero playing in its head, where it's like, it's nearly done, let's do this. And you know, even up to the last hit, because against other monsters, you know, when you start to get the upper hand, you start to kind of feel more comfortable. You're like, yeah, you know, Kushala or Teostra or Lunastra, you know, you've absolutely beaten them. And then Fatalis is like, oh, I don't think so. We're both going to the finish line. And yet, whether it's time or carts, and you know, and it's doing the spinning flame attack, yeah, like the adrenaline doesn't stop till you're done. And I love those kind of hunts. And like, I think I've seen that with the advanced version of like All-Mother in Rise as well, where like you don't have that upper hand until there is a monster on the ground and quest complete is up on the screen. Like I love those kind of hunts where it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
So with
I love the Alatreon hunt. I mean, I could nitpick on 3 things I don't like about it, but overall, it's like the best hunt I think in the entire franchise for me. I just love it. I mean, I love so many of the hunts, but it's that it clicks so many boxes that it's like one of those, like, you know, it may not have the best this or the best that, but it has the best of enough categories that to me it's just like, wow. But even then, there's like 3 things I don't like about it that I think could have been improved. If I can nitpick it for a second, I would say like one would be the game doesn't really find a way to communicate to the player how much elemental damage they're doing. So I think having it doesn't have to be necessarily be a gauge. It could be something more visual, like maybe there's two cracks that happen in the legs or in its chest or somewhere, so you could see, okay, I'm halfway there. Like you can visually see how far away was I from getting it to actually do an elemental flinch, because then you would get a better idea of, okay, I got first, you know, crack at 2 minutes in, I'm halfway there, 5 minutes it does a change, okay, I can make it. Or then you realize I'm under geared or I'm not attacking enough. But people just don't have any idea how much elemental damage they're doing, so there's no way to communicate that to the player. So I think having something like that would have been better. And I think once you broke both horns, I don't think it should have been like, okay, now you have to kill it before the next phase or you're dead. I think at that point you should get a reward. I think if you manage to break both horns, I think you've earned the fight to fight it out to the death. Like the two of you can slug it out. Like they shouldn't have had it where it's like, oh no, it's horns. It's allowing this to change element, and it does it again. I'm like, but it has no horns. I broke them both, but it still does it, right? It just seems like an oversight to me. And also, I've wrestled with the idea of the fact that the Eschaton Judgment will wipe. It makes it harder to do online because you miss it once and it's over, right? So I almost wish there was like a way to balance it so that you could have 5 carts for that hunt. So it could say that if you guys were so good that you didn't have any deaths, then yeah, you could be 20 minutes into the hunt and screw up that last phase because the adrenaline was getting you. Mm-hmm. You would have 1 cart left. You know, it is generally you're going to cart. But it's just like when you go for 20 minutes and then you just miss 1 Eschaton and it's a wipe. It's like, oh, that's frustrating, you know. So and people are like, well, just go with 2 people. You have more opportunity to fail it or play it alone. I'm like, well, the game shouldn't be encouraging you to play it with less people, you know. But that's what it does. But yeah, it's still instead of being 150 out of 100, it's 140 out of 100. That's how much I love that fight. The music is just
Yeah, I was about to say the music, like the da-da-da-da. It's kind of like a mix between like a heartbeat and a timer. And you know that you're against the clock as well. And it all really plays into you going, I've got to keep going. I've got to keep going. And in a way, because obviously you mentioned, like, is there a visual tell? And maybe there isn't, because with the music playing as well, it kind of amps you up. You're like, I need to keep going. Yeah. Like, this is a lot. And then obviously the victory theme is iconic. I love when you do beat it and it plays the classic tune. Like, yeah, but the music, like the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you're really, I find like the way the audio is woven into these games is just...
It's like the most aggressive, amazing music video you've ever played.
Yes. You're right in that mosh pit, like...
It reminds me of like when I was a kid, like, you know, like I went to like WWF or whatever, like there was a show and you got like the guys coming out with the theme song and they're setting they got their own special colored lights and everything.
And his name is John Cena.
I'm not. I'm talking about. No. I'm talking about more fun, sensational things like Undertaker or Papa Shango or like old school, like
John Cena's not good enough for you.
It's too new.
Just Basil comes in to John Cena.
I'm not that young. I never watched him. Back in my day, the wrestlers that just had the spats on or whatever they're called, the underwear, they were the generic fodder that the more colorful, dramatic characters would smash. Like,
You don't know who John Cena is. I get it.
I know who John Cena is. I've never seen him wrestle. That was way after I became an adult.
You just described the wrestlers in Speedos.
Yes, and I know what they look like, Cena. And I'm like, huh?
That's not John Cena, is what I'm saying. Doesn't matter.
Isn't he like The Rock? He's a personality. He's just a guy. And
yeah, but he doesn't run around in Speedos. No.
Oh, that's whatever.
I'm not the biggest fan of John Cena to begin with. I just thought it was funny the way that you. So
anyway.
Another thing about those fights would be like you talked earlier about like, oh, when you beat them you get this amazing gear to prepare you for the stuff that comes after, right? One of the things that I've personally come to clash with the community as well, and I'm just curious about your opinion. I don't want to get too deep into this one. Is the the Fatalis gear? Like I've clashed with a lot of people about this, and people are probably going to give me crap, guys. I just want to talk about it. Okay, I'm not trying to advocate either way.
Give him crap. It's good for the algorithm.
Or do that, sure. But it's like the thing about it was like, yeah, you beat Fatalis, you get like this amazing set of gear, and in my opinion, I thought that set was too powerful because it basically makes everything else in the game obsolete. In essence, everything else is obsolete after you have. I mean, there's maybe like one or two very specific niche builds that you can do outside of that, like some Frostcraft build that you want to do, then you use Velkhana. But for most things, the Fatalis set pretty much just like, okay, everything else is just trash now. Here's the Fatalis set, does everything. Like, how do you feel about that? Where do you land on that?
So the way I saw it, and obviously, as a player back then, I saw it as the cherry on the cake. Monster Hunter World and Iceborne was this massive, delicious cake that you'd been enjoying for years. And then Fatalis was the cherry on the cake. And they were like, thank you so much for enjoying this cake for so long. Treat yourself.
Keys to the car.
If you can defeat this monster enough times to make the set, you can clearly do anything else in this game. So just take this and have fun. That's how I saw it. It's like, this is a thank you. You have completed this game. Now just enjoy yourself. And I immediately slapped on that set and I filled it full of decorations and I have a great time with it. So yeah, I was actually a big fan because at that point, if you can beat Fatalis repeatedly, you don't need his armor set. You don't need it. But so they know that they're giving it. You can
get his armor set without beating him,
Yeah, just keep using the pilfer.
Steel?
yeah. Oh, hello.
But you still have to break his stuff though.
Yeah. So like if you've made that set, or however you choose to make it, then yeah. So I saw it purely as a thank you, and just go have fun. Basically, just go have fun, enjoy yourself. Go make some crazy sets. Try out new stuff. Yeah. So I really liked it because I said like if you're a player that can make that set, the chances are you don't need it. So yeah, I really liked it because then I just gemmed it up and I just used to go and have a hoot afterwards and just having chill hunts whenever I wanted. Go into the Gaijin lands, go fight some gold and silver wrath and things like that, and just have some fun.
I need to stop bringing this topic up. Yep, it's like I'm really in the massive minority, and it's like everybody else is like, shut up, Ruri. Okay, I get it.
I mean, I'll pile on here. I'll say that
You'll pile on. Thanks.
No, I want to say
that. Keep going.
No, I mean, both have incredibly valid points, and I would agree that in any normal circumstance, that armor set is ridiculously too powerful. But I do also agree with the sentiment that it came out over a year after the game released, if I have my dates correct. I just looked it up just to make sure. It came out just a little over a year after the game was out. So it really was like, if it was anywhere sooner than that, like half a year afterwards, I'd be like, oh God, no. Because that's just too soon. But I think after 1 year, most of the play cycle had been gone through. They made it hard enough to even get to Fatalis that, like, if you even got to him, then, like, you actually had to use every other set in order to get that far. And they made him so difficult compared to the rest that I would agree that once you take him down, everything minus Arc-Tempered Velkhana is a pushover. Like, at that point, you've graduated, you've beaten the game, give you the keys to the car, something to pay back people who put in a lot of hours and had the charms, because I don't like the system, but that's how it was designed, was it rewarded you with more decos? Charms the more you played. Or decos, yeah, sorry. I still do that. I still mix the terms. But yeah, the decos. And stuff like that. So I think it's way too overpowered, absolutely, but given the circumstances, I think it was a fine way to go out. So I think you're both right. See, I'm the good parent here.
Everyone's a winner.
Rory, you have a very good point.
Why, thank
Jonno,
you.
I agree with you too.
Yay!
You
both get a golden star sticker. Let's go have ice cream.
So,
okay.
Out of all of the stuff that's been obviously publicly announced for Sunbreak, what do you think is the thing that has you the most excited for jumping into Master Rank?
This is a good one, because obviously, the monsters are kind of the easy answer, because I love the new monsters, obviously, especially because there's that kind of Western kind of inspiration on the Three Lords and things like that. But honestly, I love the fact that there's been new Silkbind attacks and switch skills kind of starting to kind of appear. I love that. Anything that further augments my abilities as a player and the freedom I have in my builds, I'm really, really excited about. Especially how I can apply them in a more challenging setting. Because at the minute, most players are feeling like, hey, I can beat Rise, but I think Master Rank is gonna shake things up a bit. So anything that helps us.
Kick him in the butt.
So you think it's going to be significantly more challenging than what we've seen in Rise? Because that's definitely something that I hear a lot of people say. It's like, Rise is easy, whatever. I feel like a lot of the people that say that Rise is easy, they haven't really fought some of the Apex Emergencies. Like, go fight Apex Emergencies and Ogre solo, and then tell me how... and then tell me how easy that is. I mean, for me, I did it fine, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are like, oh no, game's like super easy. It's like, I don't know about that. If you go to Apex Emergencies, it's a little bit of a different ball game. But do you think that Master Rank is going to elevate things significantly in terms of that?
I mean, I think looking at historically, I don't see us diverging away from that. Not diverging, sorry. Going away from that kind of theme of the challenge kind of ramping up. But also on the flip side, we as hunters and players get new tools as well to assist us in that. And I love what those tools are kind of shaping out to be. As well, like seeing the marionette spider is a good example. Like how kind of a lot of people compared it to like the clutch claw. How there's this thing, but you can only use it once in a hunt, and you can miss with it as well. And if you miss with it, it's gone. So I like how there's kind of these little bits coming in to kind of kit us out and prepare us, because as a community, what we've seen is we've seen little videos and little tiny bits of hunts, but we've not yet seen kind of the full extent of what we're going to be up against, and that's what I'm really excited about.
So I have to ask, Rory, you said your favorite character that you're behind so far is the blacksmith.
Yes.
Girl. Jonno, who is of the announced characters that are out there, which one grabs your interest the most, and why?
I like Dame Fiore. I think she's really cool, and she uses the best weapons. So, but I love the fact that there's a sword and shield character kind of front and center. I really like the whole knight aesthetic anyway. Like, I'm a big Dragon's Dogma fan as well, so I love all the kind of European knight kind of gear and stuff like that. Dame Fiore. I think Chiche's interesting because she isn't your usual kind of quest giver. In this case, a quest damsel. And obviously she's got like this kind of secret backstory about who she is and why she's there, which I'm really keen to kind of dig into more, as it kind of puts this kind of story focus into the characters as well. Dame Fiore and Chiche.
Listen, here's what I need you to do, Jonno. I need you to very quietly go up to Ryozu, because I know that he's in the UK. I mean, obviously. This is obvious. And you're going to whisper in his ear, "AA flare, but really buffed."
Really buffed.
Have you ever seen AA flare?
I I don't think I have.
No, so that's
Check.
that's a Gunlance. What are they called back in Generations Ultimate? Hunter Arts. They're called Hunter Arts,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So it's a Hunter Art for the Gunlance, where essentially what it does is it aims the Gunlance upwards, almost like giving the monster a slap. But as it hits the monster, full burst, and then it goes down, charges up a Wyvern Fire, and comes up again and fires the Wyvern Fire if you have the cooldown.
And one more thing. Yeah.
It can do it 3 times. Triple A flare.
I was going to say, well, the thing is, doesn't the A stand for anti-aircraft?
Yeah, it stands for anti-air because it does additional stagger damage if the monster is flying.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. You could dunk monsters with it. It's really fun.
Well, like, what's it? We've revealed so far the dual blades. We've shown a heavy bow gun and a lance silkbind attack, and some keen-eyed folk have spotted like some sword and shield bits in some of the kind of non-focus clips that have been around. So yeah, I'm excited to see. Oh yes, there's some. It's only for like half a second, but it's in there for the sword and shield. But yeah, I'm excited to see what else these weapons are going to do. Especially because they seem so broad anyway. And if there is some anti-air goodness in there.
Yeah, I want that double A flare. You play Generations Ultimate, I would imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So out of the things that we didn't get, which would be the one Hunter Art that you would want to get, and for which weapon? I mean, I kind of feel like if you're a Sword and Shield man, you already have the best that you could possibly ever get with Metsu, because it doesn't get any better than Metsu.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like counter, huge damage, stun, it's great. I mean, like, oils have always been really popular. I say really popular. Oils were interesting because, I say popular. For me, I really like them. I don't want to project that onto the Sword and Shield users.
Everyone likes them.
Yeah, oils were interesting for me. And I think obviously then you got like Chaos Oil and things like that eventually.
Chaos Oil is really good.
They were interesting. I thought they were quite cool. I used to abuse as well, like I can't remember the prop name, but just the spin attack for the iframes.
Yeah. I mean, we have that basically. That's Windmill now, but it used to be Round Force.
Yeah, that's the one. And so and I think we don't need Round Force back, obviously, because we have, as guys said, Windmill in Rise and Metsu for a more kind of focused counter. So yeah, I think oils could be fun, especially if they're for a particular reason.
One of my favorite things about oils, and I think that this is tech that not everybody knew, but if you were to put, I don't remember which oil it was, but there was an oil that you would put, and then you would do Chaos Oil, and it would automatically sharpen your weapon.
That's cool.
I forget which oil it was, but there was a mix-up that you could do, and then you would do Chaos Oil, and it would sharpen your weapons. There was something with the oils like that you could mess around with. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, Chaos Oil. How about you, guys? And by the way, if you do get Chaos Oil, we need to also get a super hard quest. wasn't for Chaos Oil, wasn't that the one with gold and silver? I think that was gold and silver that you had to, in the arena, to get Chaos Oil. You had to do.
Yeah, you can't get away from them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure.
So if we get Chaos Oil, we have to do that quest. Silver and gold in an arena. Good luck. And it was solo. You couldn't even do it in multiplayer. It was solo only.
Yeah, talk about prestige, huh? Something to show off.
If you had Chaos Oil 3, then people knew you were a badass. But how about you, Gaijin? Which one of the Hunter Arts is the one that you want?
I'm drawing blanks, but because most of the stuff is already there that I loved. But I would, if anything came to mind, and I never thought that I wanted it, and it got me thinking about it the other week, because people are like, we should have it. I'm like, why? Was my initial jerk reaction, but then I thought about it, and I saw a different angle, which is the, what's the name? It's the Insight Glaive one that gives you all 3 extracts and Extract Hunter.
Oh.
It gives you all 3 extracts in one shot. And at first I'm thinking, yeah, but if you play Insight Glaive a lot, getting 3 colors is like going to a buffet and just going, okay, I take one of that, one of that, one of that. You just go and you just pick them right off, one shot, boom, 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 you're done. And then I was thinking, and we also have the slower type bugs that have some really cool effects. But then I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of people who I've watched people play Insect Glaive. Not a lot of people are that awesome at grabbing colors, especially depending on the monster. Some of them can be very challenging, right? So it could present a good opportunity to balance a new playstyle where you have a slower bug, but you're able to counterbalance maybe that speed by having an art that would allow you to get over that hump. You'd be giving up one of your skills, but it's a good gain, I think. So I think Extract Hunter would be pretty sweet. Just because we have different speeds and different types that are so well defined right now in the game, which I really like. There's some, just playing around with all of them are just really fun. So anything that levels the playing field and makes them all viable is a good thing. But other than that, I'm drawing blanks.
There's also the bugs now that can have like 2 colors at once. Those I feel like are really, really good. I think that was one
very
of the
good. But those ones are slow. Yeah, they're slower, but they're really good, especially if you can aim them well. But again, like for people who don't, for master rank monsters are going to be fast. They're going to be hard to hit, and getting up that close to some of them might prove challenging. I think the bugs will level up, I'm sure, so they'll get faster, but not nearly as fast as like a speed bug, right? So, or a single color one. So I think for people who have trouble with grabbing colors, even myself maybe, depending on the monster, it'd be good fun. I love Insect Glaive. What can I say?
I think it's a really cool weapon.
The Insect Glaive?
Yeah, I mean, because if you can't backflip, then you're immediately off that tier. You're like, okay, you're the rest of the weapons. If you can do a backflip, now you are in the tier ranking. You're in the running. So,
returning Elder Dragons, if you could pick one that would definitely be in Sunbreak, which one would it be? Because me and Gaijin, it's the Ran Moran. We both just want the Ran Moran. Yeah.
That's a hard question. That is a hard question. Because the thing is, the first thing my head thought, and it's a weird one, it's not what I'd expect, but the first monster that jumped into my head was Lunastra, and I don't know why.
Oh my
God.
I know, I don't know why.
I was hoping you'd say a Talca, but then you said Lunastra.
Actually, you know what? Lunastra would be kind of fun because her whole thing is setting the floor on fire with a very unfair way. If we now have a way to mitigate that and smack her...
the floor is lava. We can play the floor is lava.
Yeah. And I can jump on her and make her attack Teostras and stuff. Like, that could be cool.
But, that was the weird thing. Like, I don't know why she jumped into my head, but, like, I'd say something like, I don't know, like, why would she come straight into my head? I don't know. Maybe because I really like her armor.
Her armor is regal really
blue.
Good. The color is cool, yeah.
And also, I guess she's like a queen, isn't she? So I guess that's a nice kind of tie-in.
Interesting. Lunastra, then.
Yeah.
Not exactly what I expected.
Yeah. But I know time is getting tight because I could talk Monster Hunter with you guys all day. But I wanted to ask you a question, actually, that we talked a little bit with Josh about, actually, I think, as well. But it's been such a while that I think it's a fun and fascinating topic, especially depending on the region. Like, there's no such thing as it, which is just in general, like from your own personal experience and in your perspective on what it means to be a community manager. I think it's like in Japan, we don't even have community managers. The concept does not exist, and I think it's a darn shame. And I don't quite understand why, but we're blessed that in the Western markets, or most of them, we have people like yourself, and I know like Among Us has Victoria, and she's
she's fantastic.
She's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just kind of curious, like for people who don't know what you do besides being our front man and streaming the game and giving us goods and running the hype train. Like what does that entail, and what's your thoughts on that?
So I think in a nutshell, community management is traditionally seen as you are the bridge between the community and the developers, and the two-way processing of information, both from the community to devs and vice versa. But in this day and age, community management means different things to different companies in a lot of ways. But for what it means for us, we're social media managers, so we plan social media, we plan the posts, we work on assets, we do campaign plans. Like, we go, right, then, if we go, there's going to be a trailer coming out on this date, how can we build excitement up to it? How can we continue to propagate that information after the trailer is launched? Do we cut it up into little clips and put it out? And things like that, like when there's a demo, can we do a video to guide people into the demo to help new players? Do we focus on the core community or the wider community, or both? So in this day and age, community managers wear many hats. So, we've kind of gone beyond the early days where, they were seen as like forum jockeys, basically. And, you'd just be there like, oh, I need to ban someone and stuff, to this really multifaceted thing where you're really part of the development process. Like, and... will players like this? What should we look at moving forward? But yeah, so, and also that as well, like, we've spoken behind the scenes, we work with content creators and influencers. We make sure that, people have codes to play the latest release or DLC and things like that. And, as well, it can be really valuable to talk to creators and, or, watch what they're writing on social media about, did they like this? Did they like that? What don't they like as well? Because, within the kind of community manager sphere, influencers are incredibly influential, surprisingly, and, and your audiences as well tend to share your views. So, you can learn a lot from that. So working with content creators, planning social media. And it's quite ironic because back when I was at school, and you have to learn, you do English literature, English language, well, over in my end of the sticks anyway, and you're like, oh, I know how to read and write, why am I doing this? Why don't you learn creative writing and stuff like that? But the importance of learning that is key. Like, when you write posts, you're not writing posts just for yourself, you're writing posts that are going to go global. And
call to action.
What's your call to action? Is your post meaningful? Would a Monster Hunter fan appreciate this, or are you just broadcasting at them, kind of going, click here and buy this now? It's more like, well, why should they buy it? Why should they be interested in this? And kind of sharing that. And I think what's great as well with community management is 99% of the time your community managers are fans of that game or series themselves. And I think that's something amazing about where I'm at here at Capcom, where I can just nerd out every day and just talk about this game and franchise I love, and then put it on to paper. Like working with Yuri, Yuri is incredibly amazing. He's so experienced and friendly, and just kind of sharing that. It's just great because you find yourself where you do what you enjoy, and your enjoyment then bears fruit for other people that enjoy what you do. So it's definitely evolved a lot. It changes a lot, obviously, as well. We do streaming and stuff like that. So I think kind of being confident in yourself to kind of be on camera is a good thing. Yeah. It's also a challenge. Do you know what? It's really challenging because when you're talking, when you're internal, obviously you're planning ahead. You're talking about, oh, this is happening on this date and da-da-da. And then you're on camera, you can't say the same. So a good example was the March digital event, where internally we're like, okay, so we're planning for the March digital event, but externally it's spring. So I go from a meeting just before a stream, like, okay, so we're planning for March, and then I'll go onto a stream and be like, right, it's spring, the spring event, spring, don't say March, and stuff like that. And
post it on the wall, right?
Yeah, it's definitely like you're there. So like, it's really exhausting. You come off a stream like that and you've had a great time, but you're mentally so switched on. So you don't say something that could, you don't reveal something. It's fun. But I think community management, you are the bridge. You champion the community. And on the flip side as well, you champion the devs because community managers get a lot of spotlight because of the nature of our role. But the developers care. The developers are so amazing to work around. And that's why I really like, for example, like the director Suzuki posts that we do, because the director's like, I want to engage. I want to tell stuff to the community. So my philosophy around it is, the developers are really important. Let's get them at the front as well. But I know that's kind of a muddled answer, but that's because like community management, it's just just keeps getting kind of broader.
It's crazy, because it's almost like, traditionally you'd have marketing departments, PR departments, and it's like a little bit of all of that plus so much more. Like, so you have to be pretty savvy, I think, to keep up with it. So, I mean,
yeah,
I think the Monster Hunter community massively appreciates the work that Capcom and you guys put into it, because you guys, like you said, are visible, and it's just nice to. Hopefully, people aren't bombarding you with, "Hey, you should do this. Are you even listening to me? Hello."
Where's my AA flare, Jonno? Where's my AA flare?
Just right, AA. But yeah, I think it's great, because I think as well, like I am in a position of privilege. Like, I look at young me, would never believe that I would be sat where I am now. Me watching Gaijin Hunter videos 8-9 years ago, kind of thing. Wouldn't believe that I'd be sat in a podcast chatting with, two of the top, most well-established Monster Hunter creators, who are, I personally respect the hell out of and taught me how to play.
You're the special guest here today.
Like,
I'm the one who's excited to talk to you.
Thank you. So, like, on the flip side of that, I remember when I used to tweet or look at game accounts, and they'd respond, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. So, like, it sounds cheesy and cliche, but if someone DMs me a question or something like that, and I can respond, I always do. And I like it because I remember when I was in their shoes and how much it meant to me, and how important word of mouth is as well. Like, the amount of times, like, at the minute I'm like, and I'm playing with my friends in the evening, I'm like, oh, let's think of an FPS game to play. And one of my buddies would be like, oh, I checked this out. It was really good. And I think Monster Hunter was built on community and word of mouth and that togetherness. And the fact that I'm in a position now where I can contribute to that, even in my own little small way, like, because so much work is done by creators, by the Reddit community, the Steam community, all the Discord groups and things like that. And just being able to kind of support that is huge. And yeah, it's humbling to be in this position. I know it sounds weird, but it is very humbling, especially following in the footsteps of Socks, who is a close friend and someone I have so much respect for. Like, yeah, still pinching myself a bit, but I hope I'm doing the community justice alongside Steffi and Yuri.
So long as you don't think I'm from Brazil like Socks did, I think we'll be fine. Did you know that Socks thought I was from Brazil because I spoke Portuguese?
I didn't. I was surprised. Yeah, well, that's the thing, because like when I heard
nothing
you're
wrong
in Portugal,
with Brazil,
I was
by
like,
the way.
yeah.
we love Brazil.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Brazil.
But because I thought you were in America because of your accent. And
yeah,
then
you sound so American. It's
when I was told, oh, you're in Portugal, I was like, oh, maybe he's an American in Portugal. So yeah, that was my take on it. I was like, oh, Yuri was like, oh yeah, he's over in Portugal. Time zones are really good. And I was like, oh, I thought he was your end of the sticks.
It was just really funny because like I get back to the Socks and these, because this was when Monster Hunter World was announced and Socks came out and he's like, I'm the community manager. And I think Gaijin might have retweeted because I think I was following Gaijin or something. I was like, oh, he's the community manager. I got to go talk with him. So I go, hey, I'd like to meet you at Gamescom, whatever. And then start talking about codes and whatnot. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to pass you off to Yuri. And I was like, why? He's like, well,
why?
because you're in South. He handles South America. And I was like, really sucks. It was funny. It's just really, really good times. But
so I'm going to ask a question that you might not be able to answer, and if so, just say pass if you can. Like no. I'm. This is something that I'm personally curious about. That I don't know if you can even comment on it. If not, just say pass, and that's fine. But you guys did a survey after, I believe it was either the release or the demo or something for Rise. Mm-hmm. And there was a demo with just questions, some free fields where people can answer stuff. And we tried to help blast that as well because I think, not a lot of companies do it because it's really hard to aggregate that data. And so it's always nice to see when a company puts up a survey for those things because it actually does. I mean, it's not like the all-powerful insight, but it does give you some idea of what might actually be a trend and what might not be something that you need to look into. So did you guys get the amount, like the numerical amount of responses that you had hoped for, or do you think if you guys were to do it again in the future that it would be nicer to get more participants? Like was the show out good enough? I'm trying to put the heat on the community here and see did we show up Or did we did, but we could show up harder next time?
I think the easiest way to answer it would be the data was valuable. I think we hit that critical mass of the amount of people. And once again, kind of, I know it circles back round, but it's because the community shared it. It was important to the community, and the community rallied around and went, we need to answer this because this is our opportunity to get across what we want, pen on paper. Not just kind of when a community manager goes, don't worry, I'm taking note of this, it will get fed back. This is concrete. So yeah, it was successful, and we did get what we would class as valuable information. That's thanks to the community, not just fobbing it off, going, "Oh, why would I do that?"
Boy, who's gonna retweet a survey?
I know. They're not the most glamorous things.
Monster Hunter fans, man.
And what was great afterwards is I think the team put together a little statement about, obviously one of the most hot topics was cross-save/crossplay. And the team were like, we've seen this is important, we acknowledge this. And I was still relatively fresh at Capcom then, and I was so pleased. I was like, this is great. Like the team are being even when it's not news that people necessarily want to hear, the team were like, we need to tell them, let's be open and honest, let's tell them the situation there. And I loved that, especially kind of my own journey coming from indie, where you have to be very hands-on with everyone. You need to really grow and pull up your community, knowing that in the AAA space, where Monster Hunter is in this really amazing position community-wise, where the team don't take that for granted, is incredible. I loved it. And I think, so that should hopefully show that survey was really beneficial, both for the community and in regards to us getting a pulse check.
I'm sure there was like one entry that was just essay after essay answer about Gunlance and needing it to be.
Who could have done such a thing?
I would never.
It's
do
fun
that.
as hell, but just give me some numbers, man.
Listen, I wouldn't do that, but I can assure you that Chaos Slayer definitely incentivized people to go in there and talk about Gunlancers. I remember Gunlancers, this is where you can come to provide feedback. I remember.
Yeah, this is the Gunlance feedback thread only. Yeah.
And it was funny because he's always talking about the Gunlance too.
It's good to do. Like, if people get this opportunity, like, it's good that people take it. And in regards to the giving back of feedback, it's good to be passionate to an extent, kind of thing. Like, as long as it's kept civil, it's great. And even when people are frustrated, we get that because people care. If they didn't care, they wouldn't be frustrated.
Hate is a form of love.
Yeah.
Well, anger is sort of.
And as well, obviously we have all the internal stats. Everyone knows, we know what weapon usage looks like and things like that. And then when you get that kind of qualitative data from the community in an official fashion, it's great. And that's the thing, say Reddit is great, everywhere's great, because we're always watching, we're always looking, and I don't mean that in a scary way.
That sounded kind of. That sounded kind of scary. It's like we're always watching you. If
you badmouth Sword and Shield, I will know.
I'm just happy at least it's Sword and Shield. If you were a filthy longsword main, I'd be pretty upset.
So I run flinch free. I'm fine. Like, they don't bother me. They just do their own thing. Like, let them get on with it. I'm just happily doing my thing.
Oh, man.
So, Ruri, did you have any questions you want to ask?
No,
well, I mean, I'm hoping this is not the only time we have you on. I would love to talk, especially once sun breaks out and we're all hunting together and going crazy. That would be a fun time. But
gosh, yeah, definitely.
Right now we're kind of in a little bit of a lull. Like there's there's the posts of armors and stuff, but I'll be real, I actually avoid a lot of that stuff myself because I actually a big funny point of interaction with my community during the Monster Hunter World days, actually not World, Iceborne, was whenever I would unlock like a new armor set, I would go on and then I would be like, okay, I'm going to rate this armor set in terms of like skills. How good do I think it is based on the skills that it has? And then I'm going to look at it and I'm going to rate it based on how well it looks. And there were like, and I would also do the same for the weapons. And when I got to like the Gunlance for Brachydios and Glavenus, I was like, who the hell did this? Why would you do this to my weapons? Like these weapons looked so amazing and then you give them like this slap-on bone treatment. Like what the hell, dude? What is going on? But
thank you so much for taking time to just come on here and just talk. And I I don't think that. I think it's just a good opportunity just to have a good conversation, meet, talk. I don't think a lot of people probably, if they haven't checked you out, because you do manage streams on the Monster Hunter Twitch channel, which is cool. Unfortunately, I'm always either.
Because you guys dual stream now, right? You took that idea from me. I know you did. Nice. I know you stole it from me.
Just write that down. Yeah, we've expanded that a bit. But yeah, I'd say like I think a big philosophy of my personal community management, and something Socks did as well, is get hands-on with the community, like play with the community, chat to the community, listen to the community. And I think that's the best way of doing it. I genuinely enjoy it. Like, and I like playing Monster Hunter. It's an excuse for me to play Monster Hunter during my shift. Like, of course.
Yep. I get paid to play. It's hard.
That is the standard. Oh, you work in the games industry. You've just played games all day, and I'm like, actually, it's only for 2 hours a day.
Okay, guys. As per usual, there's going to be links. To Jonno, I'm just going to put a link to the official Monster Hunter channel, I guess.
Yeah, it's cooler than I am. There's far cooler stuff on that one.
I'll put your personal Twitter on there as well, and obviously the links to Gaijin stuff in the description as well. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of Third Fleet Podcast. If you guys enjoyed it, if you guys want to leave questions for Jonno, feel free to do that in the comment section. He might check it out, or we might ask it to him later when there's more news for Sunbreak and stuff like that. But we're gonna be calling here. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.